And then when it was the Asian women getting shot, it was just a different level of terrible, because it suddenly felt like, oh, everything I've fought my entire life doesn't matter, because now it's still happening and it's still going to happen. And I can like speak my face off about racism. But even this, like when 6 of the people who died are Asian women, people are still denying anything to do with race. Korean media reported that witnesses were saying the shooter was screaming, "I want to kill all Asians." But regular traditional media wasn't reporting that at all. They were like, we can't say this is a hate crime. Even the way that they dealt with the language around the shooter. He was having a bad day. So this is what... I was like, when I have a bad day, I eat too many fucking cookies. Like, I don't get a gun 3 days before and go shoot a bunch of people. Also, he was driving through Atlanta. There's plenty of like sex working corners there. It wasn't about a sex addiction. He specifically targeted Asian massage parlors. And also, a lot of those women were much older. So even the initial reports of it coming out about how they were sex workers, I was like, no, they weren't. So I don't know. It makes you feel so powerless and so hopeless, and you don't understand how any human being can actually be like this.
Yeah. Especially the women specifically being targeted, and the elders too. It's like you got to be a specific type of low to like go after any senior citizen, much less an Asian one, who are like the most peaceful ones, but it's like any elder, any senior citizen, like how could you ever see them as a target? And it's really heartbreaking. And it sucks that, like you have to understand too, like if they're here in America and they're that age, they have literally been through like 3 wars, famines, uprisings, and America was supposed to be their refuge. And like on their last day here, it's something as ridiculous as this that kind of ends their life, or that they have to face this at the final years of their life. It's like, man, like I sometimes like my parents have literally told me now, they're like, man, maybe did we make a mistake? Like, like immigrating here and raising here. And I always have to tell them, no, Mom, of course not. Like, whatever happens supposed to happen, lots of opportunities here, blah, blah, blah. But like they really do think like, oh man, maybe we had it wrong. And I just have to tell them, like, I think what you saw of America back then and what it is now, actually no, I was gonna say like maybe it's different. I think it's the same thing. It's just now it's just things
evolved.
are getting it's evolved.
It's just I am puzzled when I think about why it's swept under the rug in the way that they started saying he was having a bad day, his sex addiction, and it wasn't a hate crime. I'm just so puzzled as to what the reasoning for that is.
Honestly, like it's a shade of just white supremacy. It's a shade of them protecting their own, right? Like that cop, like I think like they found out later, like he was selling like
he bought the COVID shirts.
Yeah, he was buying like COVID like shirts that were like making fun of
made in China.
Yeah. So like it's like it's a whole systemic. I know there's a difference, sorry, but like there's it's baked into like just the country already. And so I mean, we've seen it before, even with like BLM too. It's like when it's if it was a black person, they would say, oh, this guy was a criminal. This guy has a history of blah 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 blah. But for this one, for the murder in Atlanta, it's like, oh, he went to church, like he was at his wit's end, right?
Yeah.
Like what they're just protecting, and rather than calling it for what it is.
And
right?
it's premeditated murder and hate crime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, like I think that's just where the majority of the country is just a lot of people here. Of course, not all. Like, there's obviously a lot of people that are trying to fight the good fight, but a lot of people here are still trying to deny that racism exists, that white supremacy is a problem, that there's any type of prejudice, and if there are bad, immigrants or whatever, or if there are bad people from another race, like they deserve it, right?
Yeah.
Versus, oh, like we should just all be helping people. We should be understanding that people have different backgrounds, things like that.